Hey guys, Freddy here. Welcome back to another Retro RPG. At the end of another week, the end of another poll, we've got an absolutely astounding win for Protect and Serve for Cyberpunk. Now this is a second review of this because I briefly featured it in a video when I was starting off the channel some 4 years ago now. And I covered it and some other Cyberpunk sourcebooks, I think it was Near Orbit and maybe some more, in a 6-minute long video. So I didn't really give it the detail it deserves, and it is a fantastic book, so I'm really looking forward to looking through it. Especially when it has won by so much, because I've been told in the past that Cyberpunk doesn't get enough support out on YouTube. And I didn't kind of believe it, because to me it's one of those big games. With all the press it's received with the release of the Cyberpunk 2077 video game, I thought there'd be lots of stuff out there. But the support that book received was absolutely outstanding. Anyway, I'll cover that on the desktop in a wee second, and I'll be back at the end of the video with some other poll-related stuff and some other channel-related stuff. But before I do that, I'd like to take a moment to talk about my Patreons, who this week, I've been told, have been staving off the oncoming zombie apocalypse. And I don't see any zombies, so they're doing a fantastic job. Now, if you'd like to join them and help support the channel and stop the zombie apocalypse, and gain access to these videos a week early, or one of the other levels of patronage we've got, then there's a Patreon in the description down below. If you have a look at that, it'd be very much appreciated. But anyway, let's have a look at Protect and Serve. So, this is Protect and Serve. It's a source book. Came out from our Talsorian games in 1992. And even though it says on the cover, this is firmly in the era of Cyberpunk 2020. And it even mentions it on the back cover, in 2020 the streets are ablaze. Why it didn't make it clear there, I don't know. Now, this is a sourcebook about the police, about cops. But not only does it serve the same purpose as the various sourcebooks for nomads and for solos that Cyberpunk brought out, where it bolstered that class within the game, or that career, or however you want to call it. So cops within it can dip into this and get extra stuff and find out how they should be playing their character more. It also provides the Games Master with an absolute resource of information and equipment to use for police within his Cyberpunk campaigns. So when the players are ordinary edge runners and committing crimes, not only do you have more powerful cops for them to go up against, people with bigger guns, armor, cybernetics, etc., but you also got smart detectives, so the players don't get away with various crimes as they go along. They will be tracked down. But even beyond that, this allows you to run an all-cop campaign. So your players will play a squad of police, be they detectives or whatever, perhaps going up against edge runners, or perhaps investigating corporate crime and breaking down the corporations. So hiring edge runners and working alongside them, perhaps even appearing as edge runners, as they investigate these crimes and do runs on various corporations to dig out what they've been doing wrong. Now, it's even got a precinct house as a setting built into it. But let's have a look at the back cover. City on fire. Tension was high. The apartment block was drenched in light, and the shot-up police vehicles were providing cover for Taylor's boys. A pile of bodies had built up on the sidewalk outside the building. All was quiet except for the occasional scream from the top floor. Lieutenant DeVris pulled up a headset and yelled into it, "Reece, go!" The headset crackled as Reece's voice came back at him. "Okay, we're proceeding up the stairwell. I don't think there's as many as..." DeVris ripped the headset away from his ears as it emitted a shrill scream of static. The rig shook an almighty blast from the booby-trapped stairwell. A police vehicle was flipped and another caught fire. Reece's men were gone. In 2020, the streets are ablaze, and the only law comes from the barrel of a gun. Now, our Talsorian gives your cyberpunk cop character the tool he needs to hold the line against the rising tide of crime. Protect and Serve, the complete law enforcement supplement. Cop talk, cop cars, cop training, cop guns, everything to make the Super Cop of the Year 2020 a match for the punks of the dark future. And inside, well, the artwork's fairly nice. We've got a black and white representation of the cover here, but the DTP's fairly quality. Cyberpunk always was a nice looking game. It's not as nice as later on, but we've got an introduction here, including a lot of acknowledgements. Contents page, And then we're on to the cop's oath, keeping your head together. So, continuing that story, the scene looked bad as the black Omega cruiser pulled in behind one of the 6 trauma team paramedic vans. The screaming siren died. The swirling lights died as well. DeVris sat back in the sim leather roll seat. So it's going on with that cop raid and detailing it out. This covers the basics of being a cop in 2020. So we go through what it means to be one, the briefing, how you get the badge. You and the ref figure how you're going to start your character. Run through pages 16 to 19 of the Cyberpunk rulebook. Move to the cop life path section, 10 to 13 of this book. And we go through life events, the standard life path things for Cyberpunk. So your character can be in financial loss or debt, or they caught a slug, or they had an accident, they shot an innocent. To flesh out your cop character so they're not just a policeman, they've got a background going on. What are you going to do about it? You get lucky. Tons of life path stuff, friends and enemies, romantic involvements, love affair with problems. And it leads you through creating your Cyberpunk cop character. So cash boosts ranks and promotion. The different ranks from a patrol officer up through sergeant, lieutenant, captain, deputy chief, and the chief of police itself. Handy cop tips. Cop terminology. A lowlife is anyone else. A maggot is anyone else. Trashed means assaulted. Then we've got chapter examining the role of the cop. So, how they make a bust. Doing searches. When they encounter a corpse, what they do. The departmental structure. So, who's going to be above them? Different sections. So we've got patrol divisions, traffic patrol, cruiser patrols, airborne patrols. Investigations. So we've got the vice squad, robbery squad, homicide squad. Tactical divisions. So we've got the SWAT teams. And max tac. Because obviously in the cyberpunk world, you've got a SWAT team designed to take out cybernetically augmented individuals. We've got NetSec. So the people who investigate crimes in cyberspace. Internal affairs. Different backup you can call. Immediate backup, calling out officer down. You've got paramedics can come, meat wagons collecting dead bodies, forensics you can call on, different resources, all backing up what they have available to call upon. And then we're on to equipment. So we've got different pistols and ammunition. Cyclone Squad support weapon. Got police cars, VTOLs. The Blue Knight police motorcycle, Boeing City Hawk UAAV. Control centers. We've got robohounds, so cybernetic dogs, very similar to the kind we've got these days. Robot patrol unit. So not only has it got cybernetic arms, it's got a gun barrel there. Hazardous material handling robot. So basically a bomb diffusing robot. Patrol armor, so the standard bulletproof vests and things that they've got. Flak vests. Maximum threat urban riot armor, which seems a bit more heavy than the stuff available these days. Riot shields, ballistics kits, information links, ion cuffs to shut down people's cybernetics, I believe. Yep. Subject loses all control of the bound limbs and cannot use them until released. Got police computers. And then we're on to good guys and bad guys. The local cops' big brothers, governmental anti-crime forces. So we've got government agencies which will be doing the same kind of job. Essentially the difference between a police officer and FBI agent. We've got corporate investigation, organised crime, drug enforcement. Typical highway cop, corporate cops. Now, it's got stats here for the state executioner in the NorCal Free State, Susan Forrest. Although I don't really find much background information here. It's got a couple of paragraphs on her. She's paid well. She drives a Benson Cascade car. But there's not a whole lot about her personality, what her job is. Just what a great person she is. Anyway, carrying on, we've got bounty hunters, the bad guys, we've got organised crime, the mafia, the yakuza, the triads, including some very small text for yakuza hitters, mafia hitters, Colombian hitters, triad hitters, different stats and different ways they tend to operate. Colombians, we've got the corporations, so crimes against the individual, corporate immunity, crimes against other corporations. A US Army main battle tank smashes into a Manitoga warehouse during the government's anti-corp campaign. And we've got things like corporate ninjas and corporate solos here. Different peoples you'll come up against as you're a cop. And different gangs, so we've got dwarf heads, so people who use massive amounts of drugs, nihilists, go gangs, party gangs. Then we've got the crimes. So we've got breakdown of individual crimes, mass murder, priority 1, crimes risen by 47%, and they have a 65% chance of solving it. But things like counterfeiting has risen by 67%, but they only have a 5% chance of solving the crimes. And we break these down: illegal net running, larceny, liquor laws, obstruction of justice, different priorities, auto theft, aggravated assault, extortion, going through all the levels down to very minor ones, or going from minor ones up, because mass murder, I guess, isn't a minor crime. Terrorism. Got what happens to people. So they get bail or refusal of bail, dead time between the preliminary hearing and the trial. Got the trial itself, a note on people claiming insanity, a note on timing. So going through how long a court case will take. Final note about attorneys and judges. And when somebody's been found guilty, incarceration. We've got security blocks, going from medium, high, top security. We've got psycho blocks. They've got personality adjustment, brain dance, exile, and death sentences. And then we've got information about running a campaign, although they seem to have spelt campaign quite interestingly there. So we go through what a cyberpunk campaign is like, because the original code, and you won't go wrong, style over substance, attitude is everything, live on the edge. So a cyberpunk cop is going to be very similar. If you think of Danny Glover's character out of Predator 2, he's very much living on the edge of things, doing things his own way. And that's the way cops in cyberpunk will operate. We've got personnel files, so disciplinary actions, black marks, whether they're under investigation or being suspended, disciplinary days off, administrative leave, what they get done for insubordination, even up to getting thrown off the force. And then we've got a sample setting, mega urban police department precinct building. So it goes through the external defences, the roof area, and then breaks down the different floors. So we've got the basement, where the parking is, the vehicle pool. Precinct ground floor, with cell areas, different offices. The computer core. The wall structure. So outside the precinct itself, there's a powerful, strong wall. And then we've got the roof, with the workshop, hangar bay, and landing facility, I guess. And it breaks down, describing each of these areas. And then we're on to scenario ideas. So we've got a few cop campaign or cop adventure ideas. I won't go through all of them. I do find the one with the Star Trek characters to be quite amusing. It's about a gang war between a poser gang who likes dressing up as Star Trek characters. And another gang who's planning on killing Admiral Kirk. We've got a bunch of ideas here: Full Moon, Trojan Horse, Net Stalker, Toxic Avengers, Hunter Killer, Gator Bait, Siege, just absolutely loads of ideas. Hey, remember the Alamo. Today sees the NCPD launch the new Arasaka Urban Assault and Pacification Vehicle, a revolutionary design in which the police hope to gain the upper hand against crime. Road Hogs, Watching the Detectives, The Candyman.
The Candyman once again dominates the morning's news. His latest victim is Joe Lydon, 26, a known drug user. Jonah was found dismembered by what police believe to be a buzzsaw in her apartment. This is the 5th victim of the anti-drug psycho, the Candyman. Now, over to sport. Farewell to Arms, Rough Justice, Devil, pages and pages of these absolutely fantastic stuff. And then, rather than a cop character sheet, we've got the very reverse, a character sheet for dead people. So, corpses which might be encountered, descriptions, external injuries, internal injuries, something that a cop character might be given about a victim when they're investigating a crime. Whether it's from somebody being overdosed on drugs, they might have the autopsy report for that, or serial killers, victims. We've got forms for the personnel record and a report form detailing exactly what crime was committed. Now, it's a fantastic book. I'm really sad that I didn't spend much time going over it before, because there's so much in here. The absolute massive cop campaign ideas, giving you a precinct to base it out of, really makes you drive towards wanting to run a cop campaign. There's so much in here. But it lets you just drop in a cop character to something else. For some reason, a policeman might be wanting to earn extra money, or he might be working with a games master to be undercover within the players, investigating what crimes they're up to. Or even just as a resource for the games master to have access to what the police can do in 2020. It's just an absolutely great book.
So that was Protect and Serve, and that absolutely romped home this week with some 46% of the vote, not leaving a lot for everything else. Because in second place we had Corrupting Influence for Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay on 26%. In third place was the Star Drive Arms and Equipment Guide for Alternity on 16%. In fourth place was Cold Hands Dark Hearts for Big Eyes Small Mouth on 7%. And way behind, right at the back, was Terror Counter Terror for Millennium's End on only 5%. I love Millennium's End, so I'm sad to see it not get many votes, but eventually I will end up covering it, and it's fantastic stuff whenever I get around to it. But sadly, not this time. Now, as usual, they're all wiped out at the poll, and we're going back to a Retro Adventures one. And these have all been in polls before, but each one is definitely worthy of a video, so let's see what wins. So first up, we've got The Power Behind the Throne, the third part of the Enemy Within campaign for Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay, an absolutely iconic campaign. Now, I've covered the first parts before, so it'd be great to cover this part and keep working our way through the campaign as it was published. Next up, we've got The Fiery Trial for Babylon 5. Now, this came close to winning before, and it does seem an interesting idea, as it's a season for Babylon 5. Much like the television show had an arc for each season, and individual stories slotted in within that. Some of them were part of it, some of them weren't. That's what they were trying to do with this book. Create something where you would have an ongoing storyline, but other stories would slot in between. Interesting to see if it worked. It'd be nice to cover it. Next up, after that, we've got Valley of the Mists for Bushido. Now, this is from 1982, so a very early adventure. Now, this doesn't really fit in my series where I'm looking at very early adventures which interest me, but it'd be fascinating to have a look at something for Bushido, a game I don't cover often, especially as it comes so early in role-playing. See what the way they formatted stuff, the way they did adventures, was different, or whether we've learnt from that. Then after that, we've got Scared Stiffs for the Ghostbusters role-playing game. Now, I've covered the first adventure, because there were 3 for the original Ghostbusters role-playing game, but this is a slightly different one. It's got a lot of interesting ideas. It is very funny, so I'd love to cover it, but we'll see whether it wins this time. And finally, we've got Operation Rapid Strike for Top Secret from 1980. Now, for much the same reasons as the Bushido one, this is from the dawn of role-playing. It's from something which isn't Dungeons & Dragons. It'd be fascinating to look at the way adventures were structured and see what we've learnt since then. If we've learnt anything, perhaps we've forgotten things. It'd be fascinating to have a look through. On other things, well, over on Drive Through RPG, I've been publishing some books. Obviously, those are going on the shared Google Drive for Laird's and Librarian Status Patreons. So if you're interested in seeing them, either go over to Drive Through RPG, that's linked down below, or over to the Patreon and join that, and you'll get a link to the shared Google Drive where you'll get access to them. Also linked down below. Over on RPG Gamer, well, I'm back to covering the Young Jedi Adventures. These are fun little stories, but they tend to be treading the same ground, so I'm not getting a lot of stats out of them. But it's nice to look at a kids show, see what they're trying to do to bring kids into watching Star Wars. It's fun stuff. But as usual, I think I've been wittering on for quite long enough, so thank you very much for watching, as always. But most of all, you look after yourselves, and I'll catch you later. Bye now.